What is up, bros? Josh here, and today's video is all about the currently work in progress Tier 9 USN Battleship, the USS Georgia. Now, this thing is kind of interesting, and maybe, in my opinion, is a tad better on paper than it is in reality, especially at being at Tier 9 and seeing the competition it goes after. First of all, let's dive into some stats. We'll compare it to some ships and then show some gameplay as well. So, survivability on this ship, 74,000. Now, one of the biggest things we're going to compare this to is the Iowa. The Iowa is the tech tree version of, or tech tree ship of the USN line, and so I think this is a pretty good and probably middle ground strength-wise of this tier, so this is a really good comparison. Hit points are less than the Iowa, so instantly a down right there, and the armor, actually, if you look at the armor, 6 to 540 compared to the Iowa, which has a tad less, but overall the armor layouts are going to be pretty similar. There's some plating on the outside, 38, 32, and then 32. The Georgia has a little bit more plating. It's very similar throughout this entire ship. You take the outside plating, it's almost identical here. And the armor belt, the Citadel torpedo bulkhead is a tad higher than the Iowa. But other than that, it's pretty similar to the Iowa, so tankiness is going to be something that you've played with before. So it has some decent tankiness, especially bow in. But one of the things when you are bowing is these things we're looking for right here. As you can see, it's 3 times 2. 4 in the front, 2 in the back, and that is not a lot of firepower going out. However, they do hit very hard. They are 457 millimeters, although not even the biggest at this tier, but they are pretty sizable. Now, one thing I will notice, or one thing I will point out here, is that the reload time says 30 seconds. In the latest version of this ship, it was bumped down from 30 to 26, so this technically does have a 26-second reload. It just doesn't say that in the tooltip right here. You can also get it in the module. This is one of the few ships that actually comes with the artillery plotting room modification 2, which lowers the dispersion. I am running this, so I do have a 26-second reload with that. One thing we might check this out too is taking main battery mod 3, so that's pumping potentially 6 shells of 475 millimeters every 22.62 seconds. And then, of course, adding an adrenaline rush. So you could be 20 seconds on your reload, but again, 6 shells max going out at tier 9. It's kind of interesting to me because regardless, most of the time you're going to get your two front turrets out. So that's 4 shells going out, and everything at this tier is going to pump out more. There's nothing at this tier that pumps out 6 shells at a maximum. The closest thing we can get this compared to is the tier 7 Gneisenau, but the tier 7 Gneisenau is tier 7. Maps are smaller, other ships are slower, other ships don't hit as hard, and you can make that actually work. Also, you have much better secondaries as well as you have torpedoes, so there's less threats. Maps are smaller, you can get things. So the play styles here, the Georgia to me feels like it's trying to do something it can't, and then Wargaming's trying to turn it, or just kind of square peg round hole of they want this idea to work, and the identity is just really confusing to me of what this ship is supposed to do, and you'll even see it in this gameplay as well. But anyways, main battery 4 times 2, again at 20-second reload, turrets turn at 36 seconds, and the dispersion of 200. Now that is the most accurate we can get on this ship, and you'll see what we can actually kind of do with this. Now, HE chance, 43%, blah, blah, blah. One thing I will point out, though, is since they are pretty big caliber, the pens, the over pens, and citadels do hit pretty high with the max AP damage of 15,570. So it's pretty sizable. Also, AP 732 meters per second. And if you check over here to the Iowa, it's going to be pretty similar. So again, that's why I'm comparing it to the Iowa so much. AA also is pretty strong. It is a USN battleship, but just a tad under the Iowa. You will knock some planes out of the sky, but you're a battleship in the current game. You're not going to knock too many out of the sky. Obviously, we aren't spec too much into AA as well. I'll show you my captain in just a second. Maneuverability, very comparable to the Iowa, 33 knots, 890 meters on the turning circle, and then 1312 on the rudder shift. Almost identical, a little bit slower on the rudder shift, a little bit slower on the turning circle, and then it is stealthier. The Iowa is stealthier than the Georgia as well. As you see, 13.3. This is the captain we are running. We are running the Halsey captain because it is OPOP, and we were taking preventive maintenance. We are taking the improved expert marksmanship, so that's how we're getting that turret rotation. Taking basic survivability, concealment expert, fire prevention, BFT, so we're getting a little bit more out of the AA. I'm testing this instead of superintendent right now because I'm not really seeing too much out of the one heal, and then of course picking up adrenaline rush. So that's the captain we're going, and then modules here. We're going main armament mod 1, the damage control system mod 1, picking up the extra AA. Now you can grab some extra range here if you want. I just didn't see the 20 some kilometer, 25 or whatever it ended up being, or I guess it'd be 23 or so. I didn't quite see the need for that, and I thought I wanted to help out, especially being a test ship. I tend to run a little bit more AA builds, so I'm running this instead. You could easily pick up a little bit more. Secondary is not really worth it. Steering gears here, you could easily pick up damage control system mod 1. Trying to get a little greedy because the ship is pretty agile, honestly. A little greedy with taking maybe a little bit more maneuverability instead of damage control. Of course, concealment, and then we are using the artillery plotting room mod 2 because with being only potentially 4 to 6 shells per salvo going out, I want to hit as many as possible. So this is one I decided to go with. This is what you'll see the gameplay with. Let's once over to the gameplay itself, talk about this ship and talk about the ups and the downs of this ship in general. Now here we are in game with the USS Georgia, and let's just get this question out of the way. This is one of the biggest questions I get with all work in progress ships. And how is the Georgia going to be released, announced, or how is it going to be sold? I have no idea. I can only assume it's going to be either coal, steel, or free XP, with a relatively new steel ship with the news, the tier 9 Russian destroyer. I would expect this probably to be free XP and or coal. Nothing guaranteed though. I assume once we get farther in the testing process, Wargaming will announce something. Although this is a really good game. Also, one side note, I didn't really enjoy playing this ship. I'm just going to be 100% honest. I felt like 6 guns is just so inadequate for this tier. At tier 9, you have to kind of compare it to what is also at tier 9. You have some monster premium ships. You have ships like the Missouri, which has 9 guns and it has radar, and it's basically the same ship armor wise. You have the Musashi, which has bigger shells, 9 shells, and it's basically Yamato. You have 20,000 more life than it. You know, there's even stuff like the Alsace. The Alsace is better because you can get secondaries in there. The Iowa is pretty comparable and probably better in some situations. There's a lot of other ships at this tier. This is a big tier, and to have a ship that is, its niche is to have big shells that fire relatively quick. Now, this is a really good game to show off this ship and the inconsistencies of this ship. You will see me pop off so hard at the start of this game with just kind of murdering every shot. The first salvos, I remember streaming this actual game, and just going, well, what's going on? I had just played this game probably 4 or 5 times in a row, or played this ship 4 or 5 times in a row, and gone like, all right, okay, what's going on? You know, 18,000, almost 19,000 salvo on the rune. We got God tier dispersion, chunk 10k off the Hiragumo. I'm like, okay, Georgia, let's go. Okay, all right, we see you, and you'll see me continue to pop off on this ship. And the guns can hit hard. A really good example of something that I would compare this to is the West Virginia at tier 6. Now, also, West Virginia has 8 guns, this has 6, but how the shells feel for that. As you see, another 25k salvo. You may be going, me, Josh, like, what are you doing? Like, how do you not like this ship? You have, in 3 salvos, you have 54,000 damage. Well, you're going to see what 6 guns and a high tier ship is going to continue to do as the game goes on. Now, it does have a Sigma 2.0, which is extremely high, but again, having 6 shells going out, you need that Sigma to be high, or you're just not consistently going to be hitting those shots. And that's one of the things that's a big drawback, and that's why I wanted to show this game. Also, it took me a while to honestly get a good game because I just wasn't really feeling this ship, because it just seems so lackluster. Also, that smoke, I remember talking about this smoke specifically, probably got that Akizuki killed because he blocked all of the line. Also, he said he broadside and smoke, but that was a terrible, terrible smoke and probably got him killed, and I think a lot of other people took damage because of it. But the ship itself, you try to find, and that's one of the things that took me a long time to kind of figure out. What do I do? What am I supposed to do with this ship? What's the strength of this ship? Does it have a strength compared to anything else? Now, I am all for situations where a ship is unique. I like unique ships. I like ships that are different. I like ships that play different. I like all of that. This ship kind of does that, but this is at a tier where you're basically a tier 10 ship. Now, obviously, you can get tier 9s where you are top tier. this is pretty much a tier 10 ship. There's less of the fun LOL, let's play something different and have a unique play style. This is something where it's serious, and if you aren't pulling your weight, you're going to not be having that much fun, because if you go against a Musashi, or you go against a Jean Bart who has your broadside, or you against a Jean Bart that's just even shooting #1 ammo, you're not going to have that much fun in this ship. And so at tier 9, obviously probably a pretty high price tag on whatever it is. If it is free XP, probably $1 million. If it's going to be coal, probably somewhere in the 200,000+. So, and steel, it's going to be 20s of thousands. So we just don't know what it's going to end up being. But this ship needs to bring something to the table, and I'm not really seeing that. Now, if we do run the reload module, we're getting down into the 20s of seconds, really close to 20 with the right amount of adrenaline rush. That can be pretty scary. But again, only shooting 6 shells at a time can be very, I don't know, can be a bit of a bummer, because you just feel so inadequate compared to something else. There are so many situations where I would have done better if I was in a different tier 9 ship. But I was in the Georgia. Now, I want the Georgia to be good, but I feel like the Georgia just isn't a tier 9. Now, I feel like the Georgia could be a very solid tier 8. Now, and one of the reasons, too, you say, well, the Gneiseno tends to do a decent job. Well, the Gneiseno is either loved or hated by the players that it's played. And one of the things is you can love or hate that ship because of the because it's a tier 7 tech tree ship. It seems very weird to make I would consider a relatively weak and inconsistent tier 9 battleship for something that's going to have such a high price tag. And obviously, if they ever sell this like they have with the Jean Bart or with the Azuma or any of the other tier 9s, it could potentially be very expensive too, depending on how they sell it. Now, honestly, I don't know how they're going to sell it, but still, that's the kind of point I'm talking about. And there is one spot too you will see here where I think it's even right there. It seems crazy to kind of call out that salvo, but if I'm at 9 kilometers with something with 2 sigma, it seems like I should be just getting laser accuracy. Also, as you see, I'm getting these overpens. Now, I am shooting a tad high, I will say that. But that is one thing you will notice, and that's the reason why I use the West Virginia example, because you get the either dev strike syndrome or you get the overpen syndrome, and that's the ups and the downs of having the quote-unquote big shells on a battleship. Now, they're cool and all, and there's a big salvo there. But what you end up doing is you end up getting a lot of overpens on a lot of things, and that tends to be a big downside of big caliber guns. You don't get it quite as bad at tier 6. You do get a little bit more ships that are kind of lesser armored and stuff like that, but at tier 9 you do get I guess a little less of that, but still, we were noticing a lot of overpens when it came to this ship. Either basically a murder of like a citadel or a full or a overpen basically. You will see though, we are getting semi-consistent damage, but I would like to think, what could I have done if I was in a Missouri? What could I have done if I was in an Iowa? What could I have done if I was in any other tier 9 ship? That's what I'm trying to compare this ship to, and I'm really having a tough time. Now, obviously, once we're taking more damage, we're firing faster, and you do kind of get this snowball effect. But we popped off in the first 3 salvos for half of our damage. Ever since that, we've been struggling to get those on a lot of broadside ships. This is a fantastic salvo right here, I thought. At 10 kilometers, you're going to see how many target hits we get. I don't know where they went. They are ghost shells. Apparently, they went short. I feel like I should have hit that. I just feel like this ship has a weird identity. I feel like it's something that it seems good on paper, but it's wargaming trying to force a situation that just isn't natural. To have 6 shells, I feel like you need to have some pretty consistent damage. As I say that, we get no damage on that, and obviously that's something that's going to happen on every battleship, but they have more shells going out. Could I have done another salvo if I had 50% more shells going out on an Iowa? Maybe I could have. I don't know. But there's I respect uniqueness. Again, I want to say that. I really like that. You know, we have great examples of unique ships, like the Perth at Tier 6. Hwanghae even, kind of the same situation. Dunkirk at Tier 6. There's a lot of ships that are unique and different, and they kind of just aren't this cookie cutter, you know, whatever ship. The Georgia tries to be that, but I don't think it succeeds at all. I think it's just something where you go, well, I can do battleship things, kind of, but I could have done them in other battleships. And that's one of my biggest things when it comes to this ship. I do enjoy a couple things about this, though. I do enjoy that the ship is relatively fast. I do enjoy that it's pretty agile for a battleship. I do like that. But the biggest glaring issue for me is you only have 6 shells. That's the maximum you're ever going to shoot. And in a lot of situations, you're only going to be shooting 4. And in a lot of situations, your dispersion is going to look pretty mediocre because there's only 6 shells. Now, when those shells hit, they hit hard. When they don't hit, though, you could have probably done more damage with any other battleship at this tier. There's a lot of situations where I think even the Freddy de Grove at tier 9 could have done better damage than the Georgia. I found a tough time really having fun with this ship, and I had just played a Musashi game. Now the Musashi obviously is strong. The Musashi is strong, but we had a 260,000 damage Kraken Musashi game with ease. I've been having a tough time really pushing high damage with this ship, and you can't quite decide if you're supposed to be a brawling ship. You can't quite decide if you're supposed to be a sniper ship, because it seems kind of counterproductive to have big shells and sniping, but when I'm going against something else, I'm not really having that consistency, as you saw with that salvo. I'm not really getting that accuracy that I'm hoping. This is the most accurate this ship can be, and with the 2.0 Sigma, I just don't see it. Again, we don't know how it's going to be sold. I'm kind of interested in how they will do it. I assume Wargame will end up announcing it when they are ready, but I really hope this ship isn't finalized. My biggest comeback to this ship, or my biggest feedback for this ship, would be I would love to see this be a tier 8. I think this style could really work as a tier 8 ship, and I feel like once you get into the tier 9 and even, you know, tier 9 and tier 10, you need to have stuff that isn't quite as experimental and is stuff that is kind of guaranteed. More shells going out, more consistency, you know, whatever. But at tier 8, I think you can get away with a lot of, you know, we're trying to get this kill steal, but dang it, got it. I feel like you need more consistency when it comes to a ship like this, and I would hate for somebody to go out, if this is going to be a million free XP, compared to what else has been available for the same kind of currency. It's not even in the same league. But a tier 8, okay, we can tone down the price of free XP, we can tone down the price of coal, and then you have something that's relatively unique. You could make it a tanky, buff battleship at tier 8 compared to everything else that's there, and then you can do some work with that. I think that's kind of a cool idea. But at tier 9, you just have a stacked team of other really good battleships that you are fighting against, and it seems absolutely brutal. But anyways, though, we finished this game. We got 2 kills, and we're gonna get 1 big slap on this Lexington. But my overall, now this is the second version of the ship. This is with the buffed reload timer of 26 seconds on base, and remember, down to 22 seconds, 22 and some change for the and why can't every salvo just be like that? Why can't, look how beautiful that is. But again, what the ship brings is it brings really big shells that can do lots of damage when they hit. What also it brings is only 6 of them that don't hit all that often. And so there is some ups and downs of this ship. We see kind of an armor profile that we've seen before, but overall, this is just a ship that I think is lacking a true identity, and Wargaming is maybe trying to force it into a tier that they want a ship to be in, but we'll see what ends up happening. Again, second version of this, still work in progress, the stats are subject to change, but there we go, a nice almost 150,000 damage. That's probably the highest damage we've gotten. Still pretty solid. Obviously, we made some decent credits as well as XP. Shut down some planes, only 3 though for an AA ship. their USN Battleship, which with a pretty high AA rating, so a bit of a bummer there. We did get 2 kills, 3 citadels, and again we popped off for about a third of our damage in our first 3 salvos, so that was a hot start. And then you saw kind of what the ship does with its guns along the consistency. So starting off hot, going slow for a while, and then getting a couple big hits late. But then yeah, there's the rest of the scores as well as everything else. But still, this ship, I would like to see something. I just find it so hard to make this ship work at tier 9. I really find it hard to put it up against other Goliaths like the Missouri, like the Musashi, like the Jean Bart, these other ships that are just so good. Imagine taking the Georgia into last ranked season. You would stand almost no chance because it would bring nothing to the table. That's the reason that I have a tough time at lower tiers. Sure, a fun ship that's different by all means. High tiers, tier 9 and tier 10, it's a different world. You need to you can have plenty of fun ships, but you need those fun ships to really produce on a consistent basis. So anyways, guys, that's my preview on the USS Georgia. Hope this video helps you out, gives you some information, and hope you enjoyed the gameplay. But anyways, guys, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Also, if you were interested in checking out World of Warships and making it a new account, or if you already have an account and thought about making a second account, you can use my referral link down below and get free rewards just for playing the game. New players and new accounts will get Premium Battleship Warspite, Premium Cruiser Diana Lima, as well as 14 days of premium time, as well as more to be announced. That's all for just playing the game. You'll get rewards. You get these little missions. Once you've done those missions, you get that free stuff. Also, if you have been taking a break from World of Warships and it's been more than 90 days since your last battle, you can also get some cool rewards by using the same referral link. Returning players can get also the Battleship Warspite, the tier 6 Royal Navy battleship, the Cruiser Diana Lima, as well as 28 days of premium time, almost entire month, as well as 2 super containers, which have the chance of giving you premium ships, with also more to be announced. There'll be a link down below for my referral link. Feel free to use that. You can also help support me through that link as well. So that's it for me, guys. We'll see you on the next video.